Here is the rewritten podcast script, designed to be engaging when spoken, restructured for flow, and expanded for greater depth while adhering to your specific guidelines. Hello, and welcome to the show. Today we're talking about something painful, but something many of us have to face: betrayal. Specifically, we're talking about the moment someone you trusted, someone you were loyal to, makes a fatal miscalculation. They thought they could get away with it. They truly believed they could undermine you, deceive you, dismantle your boundaries, and simply walk away clean. They looked at your kindness, your patience, your willingness to forgive, and they didn't see strength. They saw a loophole. They mistook your deep empathy for a shallow foolishness, your quiet composure for a lack of power. And in that moment of breathtaking arrogance, they decided to cross you. And that was the beginning of the end, not for you, but for them. Let's really dig into that mindset, because it's crucial. What is it in a person that sees a soft heart and thinks easy target? It's a projection. People who operate from a place of selfishness, inauthenticity, and strategy cannot comprehend people who operate from a place of integrity. They are hollow, so they assume your kindness must also be a mask, a tactic. They think you are playing the same manipulative game they are, just badly. They can't understand that your loyalty isn't a strategy. It's a part of your character. Your kindness isn't a weakness. It's a conscious choice. So when they chose to betray you, they weren't just making a simple mistake. They weren't just messing up. This was a fundamental collapse of character. It was a voluntary act, a conscious decision to choose cruelty over compassion, selfishness over connection, cowardice over courage. And when a person does that, when they knowingly sever the moral foundation that keeps them human, they set something in motion. The universe, as chaotic as it can seem, has an innate sense of balance. There is a kind of justice that operates outside of human courtrooms. It's ancient, it's psychological, and it is absolutely relentless. When someone deliberately harms a person who genuinely cared, when they manipulate, exploit, or discard someone who would have stood by them through any storm, they awaken something cold and unrelenting in the very structure of reality. And what was your response? This is the part they never, ever see coming. You didn't need to get revenge. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to post about it or gather allies or prove your side of the story to the world. You simply chose to walk away. And that right there was enough. Because your silence was louder than any confrontation could ever be. Your composure was more terrifying than any outburst. They were banking on your reaction. They wanted your outrage. They were counting on you to spiral, to lash out, to beg, to become emotional chaos. Your chaos would validate their narrative. It would give them a sense of importance, keep them at the center of the storm they created. It would allow them to point and say, "See? I told you they were unstable." But you didn't give them that. You refused to play the part. You just left. You pulled your energy, your focus, your light away from them. And in doing so, you flipped the entire power dynamic. You left them completely, terrifyingly alone, with only the deafening echo of their own actions. Your silence denies them closure. It denies them validation. It denies them the ability to distort what happened. They are left suspended in uncertainty, and their mind turns on itself. The person they defined as weak is now holding all the cards, simply by refusing to play their broken game. So what happens to them in that silence you've left behind? The consequences don't arrive with trumpets and lightning. They come quietly. They are internal. It's regret. It's emptiness. It's a slow collapse. They might still laugh in public. They might still perform, post their wins, and pretend their life is better than ever. But deep down, they know. They feel it when the room goes quiet. They feel it in the dead of night, when no distraction is loud enough to numb the profound, hollow awareness of what they've lost. They didn't just lose a person. They lost the one person who truly had their back. The soul who stood with them even when they didn't deserve it. The one who saw their potential and their flaws and chose to be kind anyway. They threw that away. For what? A fleeting sense of power? A moment of selfish gain? And now they have to live with the consequences of that choice, forever. People don't forget the ones they truly, deeply wronged. They carry those faces in their memories like ghosts. Every time they try to form something new, every time they attempt a genuine connection, they will remember how they ruined something good. And that knowledge, that memory, it will rot every new seed they try to plant. It's the reason their new relationships feel hollow. It's why trust seems to crumble in their hands. They're trying to drink from an empty cup because they are the ones who poisoned the well. And this right here is the great divergence. This is the moment your path and theirs split irretrievably. The tragedy isn't yours. It's theirs because you will rebuild. The pain you felt, it became a crucible. It was an alchemical fire that burned away your illusions, clarified your values, and forged you into someone stronger, wiser, and sharper. You will rise. You will meet new people. People who see your worth without you having to prove it. People who respect your boundaries, cherish your presence, and match your loyalty. But they'll keep circling the same self-destructive patterns. They are stuck, haunted by the one truth they can never outrun. They destroyed something irreplaceable. They betrayed the one person who may have been sent into their life as a blessing. And perhaps that blessing wasn't just for them. Maybe it was a test of character, of perception, a test from life, from the universe, from God. And they failed. Spectacularly. God doesn't need to enact petty punishments. The act of turning away from the light, from the good, from the blessing right in front of you, that is the punishment. Life has a rhythm, a way of resetting the scales. And when someone chooses deception over decency, selfishness over sacrifice, betrayal over bonding, they break that rhythm, and sooner or later it catches up. Slowly, their world starts to decay, trust erodes, respect disappears, and they begin to realize that the problem wasn't the world. The problem wasn't you. The problem was who they became and who they hurt. It's over for them. Not because you cursed them, but because they cursed themselves. You moved on, you healed, but they are still stuck in the prison of the past they created. So every time they think of you, and they will think of you, they'll feel the sting of their own failure. Every time they see someone who resembles your spirit, your integrity, they'll be reminded of the one they let slip away. And that memory will gnaw at them. A silent, internal punishment with no end. You didn't lose when they crossed you. You were liberated, you were freed from an illusion. You got to see the unvarnished truth, and that truth, as painful as it was, gave you power. The power to rebuild on stronger ground. The power to protect your soul with firmer boundaries. The power to rise with a new clarity that only this kind of pain could provide. While they spiral in their own confusion, you move with purpose. While they decay, you evolve. While they grasp for meaning in the chaos they created, you build a life rooted in wisdom and depth. They thought crossing you would make them feel powerful. But in the end, it only revealed their profound weakness. And you've become more terrifying in your silence and your peace than they ever were in their deceit. They will never forget you. Not because you begged, not because you pleaded, but because your presence was real, your loyalty was pure, and their loss was monumental. So let them sit with what they did. Let them wrestle with the memory of the bridge they burned. Let them face the consequences of severing something sacred. Because when you hurt someone who only wanted to love you, help you, and believe in you, you don't just lose them, you lose yourself. And that is a loss no one ever truly recovers from. It's over for them, and deep down, they know it. Here is the rewritten podcast script, continuing from the previous segment and based on the new article you provided. Last time, we talked about the profound power of your silence. We talked about how, when someone betrays you, your refusal to engage in their chaos becomes the one thing they can't handle. But let's go deeper, because that kind of restraint, that quiet composure, it isn't weakness. It's not being passive. It's not apathy. It is a profound and terrifying level of strength. It's not just strength. It's discipline. It's the evidence of someone who is so anchored in their own worth that they no longer feel the need to justify it to anyone, least of all to the person who tried to diminish them. When you walk away with grace, when you move forward without dragging their name through the mud, you demonstrate a level of emotional maturity they simply cannot compete with. And that, right there, is a delayed action consequence. They start to see what they lost. Not just you, your loyalty, your presence, but they see the reflection of who they could have become. They lost the opportunity to grow into someone who could meet you at that level. They are left behind, stuck in their own unresolved chaos, while you evolve. You become someone even more focused, more aligned, and more at peace. And here's the deeper reality of their new life. They will try to fill the void. You have to expect this. They will scramble to find new people, new pleasures, new distractions, but none of it will stick. None of it will satisfy, because what they are truly craving, deep down, isn't just stimulation, it's peace. It's the peace they felt in your presence, the stability your grounded energy offered, the profound safety they took for granted. And now that you're gone, they feel the sharp, cold contrast of your absence everywhere. Your silence, your absence, creates a vacuum that nothing superficial can fill. It forces them to confront the consequences of their choices without noise, without drama, and without you as a scapegoat. They may laugh louder, post more, and surround themselves with superficial validation. But in the quiet moments, they are tormented by a question they can't escape. Why didn't they react? Why didn't they fight for me? Why were they so calm? That question is where the unraveling truly begins. Because the answer is brutal. You didn't react because you finally saw their true nature, and it no longer had power over you. You didn't fight because you realized they were not worth the war. And you were calm because you had finally, fully accepted the truth. They didn't break you. They revealed themselves. And once you saw who they really were, there was nothing left to say. That kind of quiet resolution is more powerful than any confrontation. It's the moment you reclaim every bit of energy they tried to drain from you. It's the moment you stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't have even offered you a bandage. And it's the exact moment they begin to feel the crushing weight of what they've done, not through your words, but through your absence. When someone crosses you and loses you, they don't get it at first. They think they've won. They think they've moved on. The true gravity of their decision doesn't hit them until much, much later, when everything in their life starts to feel empty, hollow, and temporary. What they destroyed wasn't just a connection. It was a rare one. In a world full of shallow compliments and transactional relationships, you offered something sacred. You offered loyalty. You were the one who forgave when you should have walked away. You were the one who gave when you were being drained. You were the one who saw their potential, who believed in a version of them they hadn't yet earned. You didn't just see their flaws. You tried to understand their wounds. You stood in their corner even when they didn't deserve it. That's what they lost. They lost their anchor. You were the one grounding them when their world spun into chaos. You believed in their worth when they were drowning in self-doubt. You saw that flicker of light, that divine spark, that kernel of good that God places in everyone. And you thought, you hoped that your belief could help them water it. But they didn't choose that path. They chose ego. They chose pride. They chose to wound the very person who was trying to help them heal. And now, that opportunity is gone. You were a one-of-a-kind lifeline, and they were the one who cut the rope. They can try to replicate it. They can find new people. But what they will never find again is you. They won't find the way you listened. They won't find the way you challenged them, not to coddle their ego, but to challenge their soul. That absence will grow louder over time. With every new failed connection, with every hollow victory, they will be forced to confront the truth. They didn't just lose a relationship. They lost the one person who could have saved them from themselves. This is where the tables turn. Not because you sought revenge, not because you plotted their downfall, but because life itself has a way of balancing the scales and exposing the truth. They thought hurting you would weaken you. They expected you to crumble. They thought you'd be lost without them, but they miscalculated. What they did didn't break you. It broke the version of you that tolerated their nonsense. It broke the version of you that accepted the bare minimum. It shattered the part of you that excused red flags and overlooked patterns. What they destroyed was the version of you that was willing to settle. And from those ashes, you did the work. Quietly, slowly, painfully, you rebuilt. You faced your own wounds. You learned the lessons. You evolved, and that evolution, your growth, becomes the final, silent reckoning. As they stumble forward, still trapped in the same games, the same lies, the same toxic cycles, they begin to see it. Your new clarity exposes their confusion. Your new peace becomes a mirror for their inner chaos. Your glow becomes unsettling to them. While they circle the drain of their own dysfunction, you rise with purpose. You've learned to guard your peace. You've learned to trust your instincts. And as you rise, they decline. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's just in the small cracks. The relationships that never last. The sleepless nights. The gnawing emptiness that no distraction can numb. The most painful part for them is watching you become everything they claimed you'd never be without them. You are building a life they are no longer welcome in. You are finding joy in places they cannot touch. You didn't just survive their betrayal. You are thriving because of it. They realize far too late that they played themselves. They had something real, and they ruined it. In the quiet recesses of their heart, regret always revisits. In the early hours of the morning, in the flash of a memory, they will realize they weren't the hero of their story. They were the villain in yours. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll be long gone. You're no longer reachable, not because you're bitter, but because you've outgrown that entire chapter. You are the living proof that they were the problem. You are the proof that you weren't too sensitive or too intense. You were simply not meant to shrink, to fit their limitations, and that, your quiet, powerful, undeniable growth, that is the ending they never saw coming. Here is the next segment of the podcast script, rewritten from the article you provided, continuing our theme. We've talked about the power of your silence. We've talked about your growth. But now, we need to talk about the one thing they can never escape: themselves. There is a punishment far more devastating than any revenge you could dream of, more lasting than any public consequence. It's the quiet, relentless, suffocating weight of one's own conscience. So, I'm telling you, don't look back. Stop wondering if they'll ever get it. Stop waiting for an apology that may never come. Stop asking if they'll ever wake up. The truth is, they're already suffering. It's just not the loud, explosive downfall we see in movies. It's quieter. It's more tragic. It's the stagnation they live with. It's the persistent emptiness. It's the peace they desperately chase but can't seem to find. People think they can escape guilt. They believe they can outrun shame. They think if they deny what they did to you and to themselves long enough, it will just disappear. But it doesn't. It lingers. It seeps into the quiet moments. It waits in the stillness between all their frantic distractions. It's there when the noise finally fades and they are left completely, utterly alone with who they've become. That is the real reckoning. It's not some external force striking them down. It's a storm building within. A storm born from memory, from regret, and from the haunting, inescapable truth that they deliberately hurt someone who only ever wanted to see them win. You have to understand this. When they crossed you, they didn't just wound another person. They fractured something inside themselves. Because deep down, they knew better. They knew you cared. They knew your intentions were sincere. And still, they chose betrayal. They chose pride. They chose the path of destruction over healing, ego over humility, control over connection. And even if they were able to justify it in the moment, that truth never goes away. It becomes a ghost, trailing just behind them, following them into every new room, every new relationship. They can try to suppress it. They can distract themselves with shallow pleasures, chase status, or surround themselves with people who won't challenge them. But none of that changes what happened. The conscience doesn't sleep. It just waits. And eventually the mask begins to slip. They start to feel hollow. Joy feels forced. Connections feel empty. And slowly, the horrifying realization dawns on them. They aren't being punished by the world. They are being punished by themselves. And here is the great irony of it all. They were so sure you were the one who would break. They expected you to fall into despair, to be tormented by what they did, but you didn't. You healed. You took that pain, you processed it, you sat with it, and you turned it into wisdom. You turned it into strength. You turned it into boundaries. They are the ones who buried it, and what's buried alive doesn't stay buried. It grows in the dark, it spreads, it becomes toxic, and it starts to consume them from the inside out. They might smile. They might post the pictures. They might laugh just a little too loud. But no amount of performance can drown the sound of a guilty conscience. Every time they see someone who resembles your kindness, they're reminded. Every time someone new tries to show them love, they remember how they mishandled yours. Every time they try to build something new, the foundation cracks because they never, ever repaired what they broke in themselves. When they broke you, and here's the thing, they don't even need you to remind them. Life does it for them, not as a curse, as a consequence. A perfect echo of their own choices. They find themselves distrusting others because they know exactly what betrayal looks like from the inside. They struggle to receive real love because they are the ones who proved it was disposable. They live in fear of abandonment because they are the ones who pushed away someone who never wanted to leave. That isn't some mystical force. That is pure psychological justice. It doesn't scream. It just whispers. Constantly. The torment of a guilty conscience isn't always dramatic. It's in the little things. It's the inability to sit still. It's the profound discomfort in silence. It's that flash of agitation when faced with real, honest truth. It's the voice in the back of their mind they are always trying to drown out. And in their moments of failure, in their disappointment, in their weakness, who do you think they remember? They remember you. They remember your support, your patience, your presence, and they remember that they were the ones who set it on fire. That kind of guilt doesn't just disappear. It nests in their soul, and as you rise, as you build the life they never thought you would, as you surround yourself with peace and purpose, it only amplifies their shame, because nothing exposes a guilty person more than the strength of the one they tried to break. Your joy becomes their reminder. Your peace becomes their mirror. Your silence, your growth, your new life, that becomes their sentence. You never had to lift a finger. You've already won. Not by beating them, but by healing yourself. And in doing so, you beat the person you used to be. They are stuck, watching from a distance, tormented by what they lost. And they know, deep down, there is no going back.